start out local, which is exactly what I did. And, you know, paint, if you want to be a portrait painter starting out, first of all, definitely get your skill set a little bit up, because you don't want portraits out there hanging on walls that 20 years later you regret. Now, I had that scenario. And a little bit of black humor, and I hope this is okay to say this, quite a few of those were in Malibu homes, the very early portraits. And 4 of those burnt in the Malibu fires, 4 of those ugly, well, I shouldn't say ugly, but not as good as I would like to see them now. Yeah. And I remember thinking, gosh, that I feel, of course, feel terrible for the homeowners, you know, but it, you know, maybe it's not such a bad thing that those portraits actually went. So, and I'm happy to redo them if any of those people ever listen, and those lovely people know who they are. I'm happy to redo the portraits. Edward Jonas, who was the former chairman of the Portrait Society of America, who died sadly in a terrible accident a couple of years ago. He did an article called Getting Started in International Artist Magazine. Let me check I got that right. Yes, and he actually featured me in that, and Rose Franson and Garen Baker, 3 artists that have gone into their communities and started to look around. What can I do? Could it be a collection of parks, a collection of whatever, a collection of patisseries, or I don't know, but fruit, whatever, people. And he said, you know, this, I thought it was very interesting. And if anyone wants a copy of that article, I'm not sure if you can get it online, just email me and I'd be happy to Xerox it and send it to you the old-fashioned way, or email. So yeah, and then he had this quote in that article, which I think really sums up an awful lot for me. Ed says, "I've always said success is a result of a continued effort toward becoming the finest artist possible, and then getting your work before as many people as possible." So when you're starting out as a beginning portrait artist, I would say start local, you know, and very quickly get a website. You know, I think websites are still very important. I believe that people think, oh, I'm not ready for that yet. You know, as soon as you've got a few good images, you're ready. You know, it's your portable portfolio. So, you know, definitely do that. And then your biggest asset, honestly, is your subscriber list. So always carry cards around, always have, you know, a little, your iPhone ready to take the contact, you know. And by the way, we still have to ask to add people to our subscriber list. I'm stunned by the number of people still who just add you on to their list, that you're not legally, you're not allowed to do that, just so people know that you have to ask for permission. So, you know, enter local art shows, and enter, if you want to be a portrait artist, enter portraits. If you want to be a landscape artist, it's that goal you're trying to reach. Art fairs. I did a lot of art fairs in the early days, and paint in your art booth. People don't like static things, but they love it when an artist is painting. And, you know, they will come up behind you. It's not intimidating. People always love watching artists create. I used to do that, and it was successful to me. Open studios. You can have an open studio in your living room and do it online to, you know, Facebook Live or something like that. You can have, once you've built up a little body of work, you can have, you know, a holiday party at your house. I've done a lot of that, and it's been very successful. You know, it's about that direct thing again, you know. And, you know, you can sell all sorts of things at those things, you know, little landscape studies. I mean, I do landscape studies, little still lives. Obviously, you're not going to be selling them for thousands at a holiday open house at your home, but, you know, sales are sales. And think about starting to build your resume, you know, quite early on. Enter local art shows repeatedly. Once you build up a few successes there, which you will, then start going out to further afield art shows. That's what I did. You start entering national art shows and hopefully get a bit of leeway there, but that takes time. So yes, I'm just trying to think what else somebody could do who's starting out. Basically, anybody you meet, just think of them as a potential person to like your artwork and show them. Going on airplanes, I can't tell you how great that has been for me. Start talking. Hey, this is what I do. Oh, and here's my card. I mean, I've given out so many cards at airports, and make those cards the best you can afford.
Yes.
Best you can afford. I mean, I have been a long believer. I'm not sure we can see this. Can you see that?
Wow, yeah. It's
But in like
lovely.
a little glossy brochure,
That's cool.
and you got your bio
That's
there,
genius.
and people just take it. And even though it's quite large, people go, oh, they put it in their
Yeah.
bag. Yeah. So just remember that everybody you meet, you're selling yourself and your journey as an artist, whether it's whatever the art form, your unique selling point, as they call it in marketing, your USP. People are buying your story. And your soul, your passion. I hate the word buying, but it's kind of what we're talking about. There's an artist on every street corner all over the world, and there are usually some very, very good artists on every street corner all over the world. You have to tell the world if you want to sell your art, or if you don't. What about your art what's your story? What is your story? And my story, because I had to think about this, my story is, I'm a storyteller of people. I'm not somebody, one of my dear friends, Jeremy Lipking, who is the most incredible artist and just, jaw-droppingly good and a super, super nice guy, no ego, someone who's as massively successful as he is. Jeremy is obviously one of the world's best figurative artists and creates these incredible stories through his canvases and just top notch. I'm not that artist, I'm an artist that wants to tell the story of the person, and I think that is why really portraiture is my heart and soul, and I do some figurative work, but that's my story. And that's what you has to work out, what are you? Who are you as an artist? What are you trying to tell the world? I mean, when I looked at your website, Laura, and I saw the beauty of your work, I could tell what your story was. Your message is very clear. And I think that is what we have to get over, because also there are very few artists that can do it all and do it all really well. I mean, still life, landscape, figure, they are there, obviously Jeremy, Dan Gerhartz, and, Richard Schmidt and all those great guys. But generally speaking, it's so hard to get really good at being a painter that it does help if you have an area that you really are into and you hone in on that and you go, okay, I want to be a portrait artist. That's my mountain that I'm trying to reach. And the other thing I like, I've been really interested recently in this motivational author called James Clear. And he's written a very successful book called Atomic Habits. And he doesn't call it a mountain, he calls it an iceberg, right? So and this was very interesting. I was just listening to his masterclass on the plane back from New York last week. So he calls it an iceberg. And what is that iceberg bit at the top there? Maybe it's a collection of still life paintings you're trying to sell, or a art workshop internationally, or whatever, or getting a big portrait commission. So you've got the tip of the iceberg, and then you have underneath the water, you have to get your systems in place. He calls it your systems in place, because chances are, if you don't put those systems in place, you're not going to get that workshop filled internationally, or you're not going to get that big commission, or you're not going to get that collection of beautiful still lifes into a gallery. And those systems in place, of course, are all the things that we have talked about.
Yes.
Your subscriber list, you're getting in front of as many eyeballs as you can, but a fairly worked out plan of what you are going to do to make that happen. And the other thing he talks about is that just do a little bit every day, because sometimes the task seems so overwhelming, and I have felt that. that you kind of go, oh, so okay, you've got to go and write another newsletter, and you don't know what on earth you're going to write about yourself, because it's a delicate balance. You're selling yourself in a newsletter, but you have to make it look like you're not.
Yes.
So,
Because it
so
can feel a little bit slimy.
yeah, and I'm sure quite a few of mine have felt slimy, but because you're selling.
Yes.
But so probably it's something that I put off. I mean, I certainly don't do more than 4 a year. My lists do not want to hear from me every month, that's for sure. And actually 3 a year is better for me. But I put it off, because it's just overwhelming, and you've got to do all the links, and you've got to do this and you do that, and I'm like, oh,
The
I'll do that
images.
tomorrow. I'll do that tomorrow. And then I'll, say, well, if I just go in and do 5 minutes today, just put a few images in there, and then do 5 images tomorrow, and then the thoughts that I want to write about will actually come to me, because obviously the images are usually something that you've been creating recently, or and then also share something if you can, about how to frame or hang a painting in the best possible way, or try and share a little bit too.